Take two. Come on, Maxie. What is up? My name's Dan. Welcome to my shop. Today, we're not going to be working on a project so much. We're going to be kind of cleaning up the shop and walking around and talking. Maybe doing a little shop tour, doing a little interview style. Let's go. Ow. All right, so this is it. This is my little slice of paradise. It's always a disaster in here. So we're gonna kind of walk around and clean up a little bit and give you a little shop tour, shall we? Also, I think Isaiah's gonna ask questions. Maybe? Yeah. What did I do before I became a woodworker? So that's a long story. I think it's fair to say that I was a woodworker before I was anything else. I started working in a furniture factory straight out of high school in 1997. Do the math, you can figure out how old I am. I'm old as dirt. How did working at the furniture shop impact my woodworking? Well, you know, it was kind of, gosh, I don't know how to put it. I'm not good at being put on the spot like this. I worked at the furniture shop for 3 years. I started off doing like grunt work, running there. They have like a rip line saw where it just basically ripped a straight edge on all the boards we got in. They would get in bunks of wood, giant, large bunks of wood that were completely rough, and we would have to mill them all down for production work in the furniture shop. So I started off working like a rip line table saw, where you would feed the boards through and it would just put a straight edge on one side, basically making the board S3S. If you're a woodworker, you know what that means. And I worked my way from there to becoming a bandsaw operator, where I would cut out the curved pieces for intricate pieces of furniture like arms in a fancy chair or something like that. And that's where I stayed for, I don't know, the rest of my time, which is probably like 2.5 years. From there, I went to work at a company called Lozier Corporation. They do store fixtures. It's another manufacturing plant. They make store fixtures for like Target and Walmart, you know, all the shelving units and stuff. Well, I worked in their, what they call their backline, which is all the pegboard. So it was woodworking in a sense. Very loosely woodworking. We worked with a lot of MDF. It wasn't pleasant, but it was a good job, and I was happy to have it, because at the time I was making, what, $12 an hour in 2000. And then from there, I worked up to becoming a CNC operator. They have these giant $1 million CNCs. So I started becoming a CNC operator, and then from there I kind of got into like a supervisor position, sort of. That's another long story in and of itself. We won't get into it. But I quit there in 2011 because in that span between me starting at Lozier and quitting, obviously, I picked up photography as a hobby, just on a whim, and it became a thing. And lo and behold, I was pretty good at it. I have no qualms saying I'm an amazing photographer. I'm pretty dang good. And that quite literally took me around the world. I have shot weddings from the Midwest, where I live, to the Pacific Northwest, the Colorado Rockies, Mexico, Tahiti, and I'm missing some, the Outer Banks in North Carolina. I've been all over. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful thing for me. So yeah, my photography took me all over the place, you know. Long story short, photography got me out of working for somebody else. But so as everybody knows by now, we had a small pandemic in 2020, and that kind of helped launch my woodworking a little bit. I had been building this shop in my current house, in my current garage, since we moved in, really. But I really started to build it out in about 2016 because I was getting that itch back, you know. Once you like work with your hands and make things, you always have that itch to want to make stuff with your hands and build things and be creative. So I kind of got back into buying tools, and I wanted to build out a little shop and have the tools that I need to do stuff around the house. So that's when I started that. And then of course, like I said, the pandemic hit, and lo and behold, nobody was getting married anymore. All weddings were like canceled. Nobody wanted photos. Nobody wanted to be around each other. So photography just kind of, so I started focusing on my woodworking, and it has been nothing but amazing. My social presence has grown quite a bit. And from there, I kind of started focusing solely on the woodworking and less on photography. I still do some photo stuff, but I do way more woodworking stuff now than I do photography. Good morning, gang. Hope you're all well. Isaiah and I are out in the shop. It's YouTube record day. We're a day late and $1 short, eh? Anyway, we're doing something a little different today. We're gonna do like an interview style video, a little behind the scenes action, if you will. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear them. Do you have any questions about how I got started or anything that pertains to what we do around here? So, like I said, if you have any questions, shoot them our way. I distinctly remember, like, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I put two pieces of wood together. So I found one piece of wood that was like broke, and it had like a shape that was kind of like this push stick, except it kind of swooped up in the back. So I took another piece of wood and nailed it together, and I was like, look, a plane. I was very proud of that. And for some reason I remember that. I don't know why, but I remember like my mom or my dad, they were just like very like, oh, that's real nice, Dan. Good job. Like very patronizing. Anyway, I don't know why that sticks in my head. Probably the first actual woodworking thing I made this coffee table from some Anna White plans. I mean, most woodworkers out there know who Anna White is. I mean, she's like the pocket hole queen. And it's still inside, believe it or not. It's holding together, so they're not terrible plans. But you know, you made it out of construction lumber, 2x4s, and walnut stain. You know, it's still holding up, so I can't talk too poorly about it. I'd like to think I've grown a little bit since then. This workbench is actually the first thing I made for the shop. I just threw together some 2x4s and some 4x4s that I had laying around. I had some 4x4s and 2x4s left over from a fence project that my brothers and I did. We put up a fence in our backyard, and I had a bunch of like extra wood. I use the term wood loosely. It's all that like green treated wood for fencing and decking. Traffic. Anyways, I built the bench out of that, and it had this giant open cavity in it. I left it that way for a long time, and I ended up putting drawers in it. There's actually a video on YouTube of me putting drawers in it, so if you're interested in that, you can go look at it. The top is made from a solid core door, and I put some melamine on top of the door to beefing it up? Is beefing a word? It's a word now. To beefing it up, melamine is great for workbench tops because you can scrape glue right off of it. Yeah, so that's the story of the bench. Go check out the video. It's a pretty good video. When I was doing photography, did I also do woodworking? I mean, I didn't start taking paying clients for woodworking until probably 2018. So yeah, I was doing photography and woodworking at the same time. I can't remember. They probably started overlapping more around 2020, and then that's probably when, yeah, that's definitely when woodworking took over, was in 2020. You know, without the pandemic, I don't think there would be a Daniel Dunlap Woodworks like there is today. I don't see that happen. I probably would have been doing more weddings every weekend. But after about 350 weddings, I was like, man, I've had enough weddings, you know? You know, once upon a time, this shop was very clean and organized. Once upon a time. Projects. And me not cleaning up as I go. I'm terrible at that. Like I said in one of our other videos, I don't know which one of these videos is gonna come out first, but I've referenced I need a Marie Kondo style like person to come into the shop and find something that sparks the joy. She's like a professional organizer, right? I need somebody like that. Why did I pick woodworking over another like trade? Simple. I need things that I can be creative in, and I feel like woodworking allows me to be as creative as I can be, you know, within the medium. You know, if I would have got into construction, you know, there's no creativity there. You're just, you know, you're a framer, you're a drywaller. There's hardly any creativity opportunities there. Metalworking, I mean, you could definitely be creative there, but I don't know, I got this fear of burning down my house. You know, I don't want to put my family at risk. I mean, obviously that is still like a thing that can happen in woodworking, but I feel like the chances of it happening while you're welding is greater. I mean, that makes sense, right? Molten metal. Anyway, that's why, in a nutshell, this is me in a nutshell. He's interested in the weirdest things. The biggest impact that woodworking has had on my life. It's afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of new and cool people. That's one of the best things about being on social media and going to all the events and stuff that I go to and having the podcast and being somewhat known online is I've met so many damn cool people. It is unbelievable. Take for instance, I was just at the Maker Camp up in the Catskill Mountains in New York, and you know, there's 400 or 500 people there. You know, I never would have went to that had I not gotten woodworking. So that's easily the answer to that question. Well, the first cutting board, I swear I'm not going through puberty. The first cutting board I made for my father-in-law, actually. When I started setting up my shop, you know, I knew that cutting boards were easy. It's basically you just gluing sticks of wood together and making them nice. So I knew that was going to be an easy project. So I made my father-in-law a cutting board, and he still has it. He still has it and uses it to this day. It's very gratifying to know that something that you've made for somebody, they cherish and they use. I really like, you know, as many bigger projects as I've made, like I enjoy making cutting boards still. they're so simple, but they're like little creative wins. I mean, you can make just about anything. I mean, anything from like to a simple cutting board like this to a pattern like this, and you can get real crazy and, you know, make end grain boards where you turn the grain up on its end, and you can make all kinds of stuff. I really like cutting boards. You can get super creative with them, and I think that's the thing that drives a lot of people to making cutting boards, is the freedom to be super creative. The first woodworking tool I got was a 10-inch DeWalt miter saw off Amazon. I think it's like one of the most basic models you can get. I can't remember the model number of it, but it didn't slide. I think it may be beveled, and, you know, obviously it mitered. That's a stupid thing to say. Of course it mitered. It's a miter saw. But yeah, that was the first. I don't have it anymore. I gave it away. That seems to be like a theme with my woodworking journey here. Whenever I get a new tool, I tend to give it away to somebody else that's kind of coming up or wants to start making stuff. So I had a neighbor that lived across the street, and they were interested in making stuff for their family. And when I got my new miter saw, I gave her the old one. The most used tool in my shop, you know, believe it or not, and only because this tool is used when I use every tool almost, is the dust collector. And if you listen to the podcast, like, I went for a really long time without an actual dedicated dust collection system. I used to use a shop vac on everything, and it worked, but it wasn't the greatest system. So yeah, I think the dust collector is the most used tool in my shop, only because I use it almost every time I turn on any other tool. Besides that one, I would have to say the table saw. I mean, that's the central piece in any wood shop. So what do I think sets me apart from other woodworkers? I don't know. I'm not sure that there's anything that sets me apart. Maybe my personality. It's not like I have any sort of skills that other woodworkers don't have. I mean, it's all out there. I think it's all about personality. I think my personality is the only thing that sets me apart. I'd like to think that I'm a pretty fun guy. Not like a mushroom. See, sorry, dad jokes galore. I have 2 kids, so I've really been polishing up my dad jokes for some time. There's nothing real special about me. I don't think. I don't know. So yeah, I did work for another woodworker here in town for a little while. It's an interesting story about how that started. Yeah, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got some projects that I could use help with because I'm swamped. Would you mind taking on some of the work?" And I was like, heck yeah, I would love to, because at the time I didn't have a whole lot of projects of my own for other people, and I was stoked about the opportunity. So I ended up going to his shop, and then it became apparent that it would be easier for me to work on these projects in his shop. And then I started going to his shop like every day, and it just became like a thing. Like, I would show up to his shop and we'd work together. We had an agreement on payment and everything, and it was a good arrangement for about a year, I think. And then, well, we won't go into too much detail after that, but yeah, I was working with another guy for a while, and I learned a lot, and I was grateful for the opportunity. The upsides and downsides of being an influencer. First of all, I hate that word, influencer. I'd rather be called a content creator than anything. Yes, I am a woodworker, but I also do create content. But, you know, obviously being quote unquote popular does have some upsides and downsides. Upsides are, like I talked about earlier, I've met a lot of cool people. I love this community. Downsides is you get like some crazy negative comments and it feels like you're always under a microscope. Like people are waiting to point out all the flaws that you make. And you know, Lord knows I make a ton of flaws. I am not perfect. I make a lot of errors. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that sets me apart. I like to show my errors. Not everybody shows their errors. I like to show my errors because I feel like it's a good learning opportunity for a lot of other people. And you know, when you do that, man, you get some real critics that come out of the woodwork. It's like they just hang out and wait for their moment to criticize your work. So you gotta grow a pretty thick skin. That took some practice. I was not good at that. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not good at criticism or taking criticism. Still to this day, I'm not good at it. I can let a lot of stuff roll off my shoulder, but still to this day, like I will clap back to some comments because I can't help it. I will stew and I will think about them until I respond. So thick skin, but I'm still working on that myself. A dream woodworking project. I'd really like to redo the kitchen in my own home. I'd like to build all the cabinets myself, make them completely custom. I'd like to make a big butcher block countertop, you know, just kind of like go all out with the woodworking. But, you know, time and money, you know, those two things that I don't always have. When I have the time, I don't have the money. When I have the money, I don't have the time. So they've never like coexisted on the things that I need. Also, you know, I might get a little hate for this, but I've always wanted to make a giant river table. You know, the epoxy river tables that everybody hates now because they got overdone. Like, I want to make one of those. I've never made one. I would love to make one. So, you know, we'll throw that out in the universe. If you're looking for a giant epoxy river table, hit me up. All right, so what's one thing people don't know about me? I'm an avid GTA 5 player. I am ranked very high on GTA 5. It's pretty pathetic. It's the only game I play, and I don't know why I play it, but I am obsessed with that game. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this style of video. We talked about several projects that I've done. If you're interested in any of those, you know, hit me up. It might make it into the next video. If you have any other questions that we didn't get to, that you have just been dying to have answered, please leave it in the comments below. I will answer every single one of them within reason. Otherwise, you know, like, comment, obviously, subscribe, all that stuff. Until next time, be kind to one another. Come on, Max, let's go to the wood shop.